I had so much going on through me this week, thinking about pondering, living, that my biggest concern is how do I turn it into a coherent talk? To explain what it is that's going on. And so the basics here are power. I'm here to talk to you about power. Because I think that some of the definitions we use for it don't allow for the spiritual power, the spiritual essence that we truly are. Every time I get up here, I do our invocation, I started out with, we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings. What do I mean by that? And how is that useful in your daily life? How is that useful in mine? Okay, we're powerful, creative beings that are dealing with all kinds of drama that goes on all the time. And so, what do we do with that? And this teaching really allows us to move to a place where we go, wait a minute, what we think is going on and what's really going on may not be the same thing. So, the definition of power that is used often is the ability to influence others. And that's why wars happen. One country or one side wants to influence the other by beating their brains out. Right? Competition is all based on power. One of the things I learned when I grew up in New York City, so I grew up as a New York Giant fan in football. And Bill Parcells was the coach at the time, and he won a couple of Super Bowls. You guys up here in Canada know what a Super Bowl is, right? just checking. And when people looked at what he did to win the Super Bowl, is he was the first guy to go, you know what, I'm not going to pay my quarterback, my wide receivers, or a lot of money. I'm going to pay my front line a ton of money and get the biggest, baddest people I can find. Because what he found is if there was enough power in that front line to move the defensive line back, they'd win. Whatever else was going on, if they did that, they could have not the greatest quarterback in the world, not the greatest wide receivers, not the greatest running back. They'd create holes that were large enough for a high school kid to run through. And so they won a couple of Super Bowls. Other teams started to notice that. And so they started buying bigger and spending more money on the front line. Power. That's how they see power in the NFL. Even in hockey, they got the thing called the power play, right? Which means you got more guys out there than the other team to overpower them. I remember when the United States attacked Iraq, and Colin Powell was asked about his strategy. He said, overwhelming force. That was his strategy. This is what we've been doing for 100,000 years. Thinking about power that way. Then there's somebody like Ananta Kranti, who gets thrown into a Thailand prison. I know you've heard the story before, but I'm going to tell you again because I need to hear it a lot. Gets thrown into a Thailand prison, is beaten every day, worked to almost death every day. And after 5 years of this, not being told when she was thrown in there how long her sentence would be, one day she has this powerful experience of oneness. in her jail cell, completely trapped, that had her experience a sense of freedom she had never had before. So much so that it brought her joy. And so her days out here didn't change. She was still beaten every day, still worked almost to death. Except all of a sudden she started noticing the joy in her life and stayed in that place of oneness. Felt freer than she had ever felt in her life in the midst of that. That's power. Power is the path that leads to true freedom. And we have that power every single moment of every day. And most of the time, we're giving it up. Anytime we say something along the lines of, that's the reason I'm pissed off. You did it. This is happening in the world. I'm very upset about this. I don't have money for my rent. I'm very upset about this. You have given your power away. And the thing about it is, I know I've told you guys this story before, people not always, that to take your power, to claim it, to be it, you must be willing to be responsible for whatever goes on in life. And that's where the line gets drawn for a lot of folks. Wait a minute. Don't tell me I got to be responsible for this. I'm not taking responsibility for this. I didn't do it. It's not on me. Why should I be responsible? The problem, once again, is definition. You're using the word responsibility if you're feeling that way, but what you're really saying is blame. And blame is not responsibility. They are not the same thing. But to find that place in ourselves, that power, to remember that we are the creator of our lives. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We have that ability to create a life that feels awesome. We have to be willing to be responsible. Because if you're not responsible, you got no power. Right? If you're not responsible, there's no power there for you to infuse, to use, to bring yourself to a place of awe, of the enjoyment, of the joy, no matter what the circumstance. You're stuck being the power, I have in my life had moments of feeling powerless. Maybe you have too. Maybe I'm not the only one. And when we feel that way, we've given away that power. It wasn't taken from us. You could look at somebody like Anantakranta and go, she was powerless. She's stuck in that jail cell. But she didn't feel that way. She owned it. And thus created freedom and created joy for herself in that circumstance. And it occurs to me that if she can do it in that circumstance, I can do it in any of the circumstances. I'm not dealing with nothing like that. How about you? If she can do it in that, then we can do it. Right? So I've been looking a lot at what does that mean, in our daily lives in terms of responsibility. So last year, as many of you know, I was in the hospital. They said I was going to die, and I didn't. And this whole miraculous thing happened that when by the time I left the hospital, I was thinking that was awesome. Right? I wasn't there going, oh my God, that was so hard. This is terrible. I was like, wow, that was this incredible experience. I'd rather not go through it again. Kind of like skydiving. I did it once. It was awesome. I'm not doing it again. But it was awesome, right? And so last week, I mentioned to you that I took a fall. You know, my son likes to get into all the drama details of it, how my feet went up into the air, and then I came down on this rock right on my ribs, and my Ash and Isaac, they were like, you need to go to the emergency room and get it checked out. You need to go to the emergency room to get it checked out. And I said, I think I'm going to be fine. And the first thing Ash goes is, that's what you said last year when you almost died. And that threw me. I thought, is she right? Am I being, just overly like, this is okay, I'm fine, and, like sucking it up like a guy, and instead of like really being in there with it? Is she right? And I doubted myself, and the second I doubted myself, I recognized I gave my power away. And then I thought about what happened last year, and I thought about if I had gone to the hospital any sooner, I may not have had the miraculous experience I did. That actually everything that happened was perfect because I am awestruck by the experience. That's how I came out of it. And so after being thrown and thinking about, oh, is that true? Am I just being that and not really being in touch with myself and being in my own power? I thought about it. I recognized, no, I've done my body check. I've gone through. I think it's going to be fine. I'm okay here. Right? But I had to come back to that. And maybe that happens to you. Somebody comes and they give you advice and they say this and that. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, wow, are they right? Am I not as clear here as I think I am? And then you start doubting yourself. And the second you start doubting yourself, you're no longer in your power. Now, I'm not saying don't take other people's advice. But I'm saying, wait for it. Don't doubt yourself. If in not doubting yourself, you're like, I could use some other's advice here, well, that's great. But be clear with yourself. Not doubting yourself doesn't mean you don't take others' advice. It means if you are taking others' advice, it's because you're clear in yourself with no doubt that that's a good idea. It's different. Can you feel the difference? Feel the difference. Right? You are a powerful, creative, spiritual being. We all are. So within us is the power to know for ourselves what's true. And maybe what's true is you need to go get some advice. Maybe what's true is you don't. Either way, if you feel yourself in that self-doubt, if you see, that you've given your power away. That's what's happened. And you have the opportunity in noticing that to take it back before you take any action of getting advice or not. And so I'm going along and I'm getting better. Except for this one spot. I got this one spot that didn't feel like it was getting better. And lo and behold, because of my ribs, I thought I should cancel my chiropractic appointment for this past week and forgot. Just forgot to cancel it. Anybody around here knows that I forget stuff. So that was not an unusual situation that I forgot to do that. I go to the chiropractor and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I really can't have you be working on my ribs right now. I fell. And he goes, well, let me check it out for you. And so he starts checking it out. And he finds this one spot. He says, we really should get an x-ray of that spot. And I was like, okay, no doubt. And the beauty of the whole thing is I didn't spend 7-8 hours in the emergency room. This guy sends me to an x-ray place where there was nobody else there. I walk in, they take my x-ray, I walk out 5 minutes later. And that was that. And sure enough, on the x-ray, there's this one spot where the rib is a little cracked. No big deal. It's a small enough crack where they thought it's questionable whether it's a true crack or not. I could tell them it's not so questionable because it hurts. But it's that one spot, right? And the whole thing unfolded with me not doubting myself. The whole thing unfolded with me being clear. You know, the other thing that happens when we doubt ourselves is we go the other way. I mean, the two sides and it's the same side of there's the other side of the coin, which is being rebellious, right? I'm not taking advice from anybody because I know best. Well, that's not centered either. That's not clarity, and that's not knowing. I know because I spent most of my life on that side of the coin as a rebel. And that hasn't always worked out so well for me. And I'm not the only one. There you go. There is that place where we get to have knowing. It was one of the biggest things I did when I was in that cabin in the woods, was be in that place, learning how to be in that place of recognizing my own knowing, my own centeredness. That's what's possible for all of us. Sometimes that centeredness and that knowing defies logic. Sometimes it just defies logic. Has for me, anyway. And when it does, when it defies logic, there's another moment in which self-doubt can creep in. If you really know something, but it doesn't fit the logic of the situation, and you start to doubt yourself, that's not strengthening that part of you that knows. We are powerful, creative, spiritual beings that come into these bodies to have an experience. But then it's our minds, not our higher spiritual self, that then judges that experience. So in our teaching, one of the things we teach here is mental equivalence. It's like visualization. You get a real clear picture of what it is you want. And then you focus on it, you do our affirmative prayers, you do what we teach in class here, and the odds are it's going to show up. Visualization works. The issue I have with it is you were the person who wanted that in the first place. It was coming from your ego mind, and now you're the same person who now has it. If you ever want to see the best example of this, Enid pointed this out to me, is people who win the lottery. 90% of them, after 1 year, the money's gone. Because they're the same person who had that poverty consciousness before they had the money. And whatever consciousness you have, you take with you. If instead of using mental equivalence to get stuff or to get results, you use it to become that person you dream yourself to be, then you have changed. And then what comes with that is all the goodies that will come with being that person anyway. That's what I'm learning, right? Is that I don't have to think about how many people, how successful this center is, how successful my life is. All I got to do is keep focusing on, am I evolving? Because as you evolve, as each of us evolves, there's goodies that come with that. It was not long after Ananta Kranti realized her own sense of power that she was ultimately released. Because what you embody manifests. Same thing happened to Hurricane Carter, guy who was convicted of a murder he didn't do. Imprisoned for 24 years In his 22nd year, he came to the realization that center, where he published a book that said very clearly, I have never felt freer in my life. Shortly thereafter, he was released. What you embody manifests. This is where the power is. It's not out here. It's not in the things you're getting. It's in who you're being. And the side effects of that are the goodies that come. As I continue to evolve, so do my relationships to where they're really fun. As I continue to evolve, my career, being in front of you guys, doing all this stuff is just magnificent for me. I mean, I love being with all of you. This is extraordinary. But I'm not focused on you. I'm focused on me because I'm recognizing the more I evolve, the more I can be here for you. My greatest gift of service to you is my evolution and what it brings in terms of what I have for you. You know? But that's what you can be doing. The more you evolve yourself, the more life shifts with it. It's automatic. True power. True power is not the influence over others. It's the influence over ourselves. That's true power. True power is not control. There are times in my life where I have tried to take control of myself. God knows I've tried to take control of others. It has never gone well. When we try to use power as a way of control, for instance, one of the things we teach here is that we are not just with God, in God. We are not just in and with that, we are that. And a lot of folks have trouble taking that on, that we are that, not just, as Rumi likes to say, we're not just a drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean in a drop, right? But that's very hard for many people to take on. Well, that's too much power, and if I had that kind of power, then I could control the weather, I could control this, and I can control that. And no, that's not how it works. Power is not control. Power is our ability to experience life in freedom, joy, wonder. Our power is in our ability to awakening consciousness through spiritual community, awakening. That is where true power is, because if we're awakened, the side effects that I have seen in every single person I've ever met who is in an awakened state, they are more kind, they are of service, compassionate, loving. These things come naturally as we evolve. And it becomes less important what exactly is happening out here as we recognize the beauty of the unfoldment of our lives is, of course, leading to the goodies. You get to have the goodies of life. So that's not about not. But if you're focused on the goodies, then you get the goodies being exactly who you are now instead of the evolved self. It's different. Can you feel the difference? It's our evolution that matters. It's our evolution that'll change the planet. It's our evolution that can change humanity. It's our evolution that allows us to be the light bearers that then brings to whatever it is we are so darn sure right about, or we're backing up about because we're letting the other person be right, or whatever's going on in those dramatic ways in which we interact. There's more here for us There's more here for everyone. Your evolution impacts the planet in ways that you and I can't even imagine. That's the beauty of it. As we awaken, our lives become beyond our own imagination because our ego mind is limited in what it can think up. But there's this greater part of us that knows way beyond what we can imagine we can know. And that's what I know for you. That's what I know for me. And I love you very much. Thank you for joining me today.